Hello there. What's going on, everybody? I am here and we're going to talk some Q&A and just kind of talk about everything. I figure there's a lot of stuff that I just haven't really covered in videos that's worth talking about. So I figured I'd spend some time this Sunday evening and chat it up with you guys. One thing about X-Wing, a lot of people have asked, am I going to do the Inquisitor's tie, or the V1, because I think that's the only ship from Wave 5 that I have not done an unboxing of yet. And I wasn't going to do, but and I wasn't going to do the Jump Master either, but enough people have asked me about it, so I am going to be doing that. Some of the ships that are just straight up reprints that don't really have anything new, I'm really less enthusiastic about really getting into those, because there's really not anything, at least that we expect to be new. So I don't rush. There's much less of a sense of urgency. So what I end up doing is I prioritize getting the new stuff out right away. And usually I can get those out early before they're even released. But with the older stuff, I make it a point to try to spread my business around the local economy here in Orlando, and so I try to support local game stores. And so I'll pick up one from this store, one from that store, and things like that, because I usually try to encourage people to support their local stores. I mean, if you're going to play in a store, I think you should also support the store, and so I try to also practice what I preach in that regard. So and that's by waiting until pre-ordering maybe only the newest stuff, and then waiting until after they come out, and then picking up, and I'm here at this store, let me I need to get this one also. So kind of that's how that whole thing works. I don't really get, FFG doesn't really provide these ships to me to review, so I have to go out and buy them just like everybody else. So so that's kind of how that works. So the Inquisitor's tie will be coming, so stay tuned this week. I'll be doing that. So if you were curious about a comparison between that and the 1.0 version, we'll have that available. Additionally, if you just wanted to see the quick builds or whatever, all that stuff will be there. So I'll go over that. And yes, so that's it. Armada, A Rebellion in the Rim came out, or maybe came out, depending on Alliance being the distributor. I know here the stores didn't get it just yet, but some may have it, some may not. So I know by next week it should be out everywhere. So that's exciting. So a lot of really cool Armada games are going to be played, which is very exciting. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. And then Legion, some people are getting their Clone Wars, so that's super exciting. We got a super chat from Bleed Green Productions. I want to thank you very much, Bleed Green. Thank you very much. So I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful evening, and thank you for your support. They should add Kanan from Rebels to Legion, by the way. So I agree with that 100%. So yes. It's funny because I was out playing some Legion today. I'll have a battle report up tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So it'll be a short style battle report because they I've got the new camera set up where I can just kind of capture and do the wider angle lens now, and so it's easier to get a full battle report. But sometimes it's nicer just to get the shorter battle report. To be perfectly honest, it just depends. So I'm going to vary them a little bit. So somebody was talking about, how come they did Sabine but not the rest of all of the Ghost crew for Legion, which is actually, I think, a really good question. And I think it boils down to timing and balance, and you can't just do everything for one side and not everything else for the other side. It'd be harder to do Kanan and Ezra at the same time that they're doing bounty hunters or whatever, because it's not gonna match up as well. As a matter of fact, look at the Emperor. They didn't really I thought for sure the Emperor would have come out with more force upgrades, but there was, at the same time, had they come out with generic force upgrades, then there was no rebel counterpart. to launch those. And that's like one of the things that they've been doing is they're trying to have like, oh, well, you don't have to buy a cross faction if you don't want to. But now with the card packs, maybe they'll be able to do that. Maybe they'll be able to get away with just being like, all right, well, you know what? Here's an army of Inquisitors for the Empire, and you know what? You get Kanan and Ezra like maybe next month, you know. But I think that like it would make more sense if they released like Kanan and Ezra for them to be released alongside some Inquisitors. So this way you can have like, you know, if you're going to come up with a new neutral force power, it could be in both, for example. It's going to be harder to do that when you've got all these other factions, and I think that's why they waited on maybe Kanan and Ezra and the Inquisitors, is because they're going to eventually be putting out a lot more Force users with the Old Republic. I'm not the Old Republic, but with the Republic and the Separatists. You're going to have Asajj Ventress. You're going to have Dooku coming out soon. You're going to have maybe Night Sisters. You know, but you're also going to have all of the Jedi, right? You're going to have Sidious. You're going to have and there's some like that tiptoe the line. It's like, so you could have Quinlan Voss, things like that. So there's all kinds of really cool stuff. But the problem is if you just start doing like, all right, we're gonna have Kit Fisto, and then we're gonna have Ki-Adi-Mundi, and then we're gonna have, you know, Ayala Secura, and then we're gonna have Ahsoka, and then we're gonna have Anakin. What are you gonna do for the rebels, right? So like I think that's kind of why they've prolonged some of the stuff, so that they can make sure it all lines up with what they want to do. So you know, big Jedi push over here. Okay, Jedi push over here too, and then Sith push and Inquisitor push, etc. So I think we will see a lot of that stuff line up. I think that's what's going to end up happening. So yeah, that's kind of my guess. But yeah, so that would be fun. But I mean, it's really exciting. I'm so excited to see what comes out for Legion, because we haven't really seen any announcements in a while. I do want to talk about the teaser for Legion, because there's definitely a teaser for Legion with like that came out of Poland, and I think it was out of somewhere else too, where they were talking about like the new companion thing. Basically, like looks like Cassian Andor and K2SO and the Inferno Squad, Iden Versio and Dio, which I don't like that her droid is called Dio, and also the droid from episode 9 is called Dio. Also, you have two completely different droids, both named Dio. That's driving me crazy. It's just driving me a little bit crazy. It was going to happen at some point, right? So, I'm surprised we haven't seen an official announcement for that yet. I'm sure we will soon, but that's surprising. Makes me wonder, because if it's already on distributor websites for retail places to order it, it makes me wonder if it's going to be a surprise Force Friday launch. It makes me wonder if FFG... Because FFG did that one time with Destiny. There was a surprise Force Friday launch for like a new Destiny starter that had some new stuff. It makes me wonder if they would do that for Legion. That would be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool. I'm gonna get into some questions though, and we'll talk about. Let's see. I probably missed a couple. Question about Legion: does standby count as a move, and does it completely remove suppression tokens? Standby. Does standby count as a move? Well, standby is an action. It doesn't move you. It puts your standby token on you. It doesn't remove suppression tokens. If you gain suppression, you lose the standby. But if somebody comes into your area and triggers your standby, you can do a move action or an attack action. And in that case, that counts as a move, and I believe it actually is considered a move action, so it can trigger things like Relentless and things like that. Yes. Are you going to do a comprehensive Rebellion in the Rim overview now that it's out in the wild? That's a really good question. No. I mean, I don't think so. And it depends what specifically you're looking for, because I feel like I've talked about all the upgrade cards that came in Rebellion in the Rim. As far as the campaign, I don't know if I'm going to even run the campaign, just because I'm very busy, and like I have other campaigns that I'm in, and by the time I get around to running a campaign, it may be months or whatever. Like it may be so far in advance. Like I've still never finished the Corellian Conflict campaign. I've attempted one. We got very far, and we had a cheater that was cheating and ruined the whole thing. We never finished it and never went back to it. It was just and it was really hard getting 6 people to commit to play every week, and and it was just really difficult, and I just don't think I have the time to do that, and then also try to report on it. Like I feel like sometimes if I really want a game, I have to stop YouTube and just like cut out all the social media stuff and then just game for the fun of it. And so it's like I have, because I work and I've got kids, I've got a family, I've got a wife, and they're amazing, and they definitely help make sure that I can still do all of this, and they're wonderful for that. But like for me, like to get out and game, a lot of times I'm lucky if I get one day that I can go out and game a week. And lately I've been able to get like 2 days in because my wife has been very, very, very supportive, and she's been great. But at a certain point, I'm just exhausted because I do a video every day, and some days multiple videos, then depending on the news and all of that. And so if I'm going to get into a campaign that could take 3 months or however many sessions it's going to take, I feel like I'll have to like put every other game to the side, because like sometimes it's X-Wing, sometimes it's Legion, sometimes it's Armada, sometimes it's like a Kickstarter preview and I'm practicing and learning that, I would love to do this full time, but it's going to take a lot more subscribers, and for me to really be able to do that. The answer is I would love to do that, but as far as like more of a comprehensive, if we're talking about like the campaign itself, I'm probably not going to cover that in as much detail. I will probably redirect you to some of the other Armada. Like I bet you some of the other Armada media outlets will cover some more questions about the campaign. But as far as the upgrades, I think I've already covered most of those, and I'm really doing them more individually rather than all at once. My best bet for the all at once was just to go watch the Rebellion in the Room unboxing. I kind of talk about everything a little bit in there, just about it, with the exception of all the new objective cards, because I haven't played those yet. I haven't wanted to use them yet because a lot of people don't have access to it yet, so it wouldn't be fair for me to have objectives that my opponents don't have. So now that it's out, I think I'll be playing the new objectives more. I will probably eventually start talking more about the new objectives. I think I've covered all of the objectives except for the new ones. I think I've covered the Corellian conflict objectives, but I don't know. But that's something I could probably look into and talk about those a little more specifically. Let's see. Well, let's find some more questions. Let's see. Are you going to do a Wave 8 review of Armada? Absolutely. When it comes out. Hopefully that'll be out before Thanksgiving. That's my guess. Hopefully. I hope. Hopefully it's out before Christmas. Hopefully it shows up at my door next week, but I don't think that's going to happen. All right. How's it going? It's going great. How are you? Let's see. Which version of X-Wing do you recommend? Well, that would be X-Wing 2nd Edition, X-Wing 2.0. Because that's what people are playing right now. I liked 1.0 better, personally, but I think the biggest reason for that is just because I had played it for so long. I knew what everything did. It's when you start to get a little bit older, I feel like you become like the master of the things that and you're like, you become like I knew a lot more about X-Wing 1.0, and then when 2.0 came out, it was like, because there were so many subtle rule changes, so many small things that they made it close enough that you could jump right in and start playing, but at the same time they changed everything but just a little bit. And so I was making so many mistakes. When I started playing 2.0, it really was embarrassing to me. And I've seen a lot of in X-Wing communities, people talk a lot of trash about hey, this guy Crabbok has no idea what the hell he's talking about, and he makes so many mistakes. And there was that period. So and I have to own that, because I just felt overwhelmed with all the different games that I was covering at the time, and I don't think I had the time to really just read through cover to cover the rule book and absorb all of that. It was intimidating to me. So I have had a big problem with 2.0. Now, lately I've been playing X-Wing more, and I'm getting more reacquainted with it. I'm sticking, and I'm taking kind of like a noob approach, and maybe this is even something that could warrant a new video series, is like, adapting to 2.0 from like a 1.0 player, is I'm just sticking with one faction, which I used to never do. I would jump around. I wanted to play everything, every ship. I wanted to play a list for everything, and that's what I used to do in 1.0. I played everything. And now I'm sticking to Republic, at least for a while. I mean, I'll play the other factions eventually, but yeah, and that's kind of helping me, take baby steps back into X-Wing and really start to appreciate it, because it is a fun game, and and I feel like I had kind of gotten away from it. I feel like if we were in a relationship, we've taken a trial separation, and now we're dating again. It sounds ridiculous, but I don't know. I try to come up with weird analogies. Do you think we'll see Vader in a Defender? I think that's possible. I think it's possible. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think FFG could get away with putting Thrawn in a Defender. I think they could get away with doing that. I think I don't think he would have very high pilot skill. Although Thrawn isn't a bad pilot according to the books. He's just, because at some point he would have had to have gotten in the cockpit, right? We don't really see Thrawn flying a Defender in any of the new canon books, but you can easily assume it wouldn't be a far stretch for them to say, well, at one point I'm sure he climbed into the cockpit just to understand. He would want to understand what it's like, right? I have a feeling he's done at least a test flight in one at some point. So I think you could get away with putting Thrawn in a TIE Defender. It would be kind of cool. Yes, let's see. A do-it-yourself Jedi kit would be nice for Clone Wars Legion. I think they'll do something kind of like that. You know how they've done the whole generic commander that they've done for the Empire and the Rebels? I think they could do like generic Jedis, and that would like really allow people to like print their own stuff, or go to like Hero Forge or any of these other websites that let you like make your own mini, put yourself in there. I would love that though, and it'd be really cool if like FFG kind of did the whole create your own Jedi card, for something that you could do. They did something like that with Destiny. So the cool little story here is they had, and I've gotten away from Destiny. I was playing Destiny for a while. They did this thing at Star Wars Celebration where you could get your own picture on a Destiny promo card, and they were taking pictures. They had the whole, what is that? Whisker. They had the whole background set up to where you could like get your whole picture, and they would mail you the card after the fact. And I think they've been mailing people their cards. I didn't do it. I was pretty busy at Star Wars Celebration. I was working like crazy, but yeah, like that would be a really cool option if they had something like that for Legion. So you could, on one hand, it would just be getting your picture on a card and having it like from FFG, like here's your promo with you as generic Jedi. Maybe you could even have your name typed on there. Alternatively, it'd be kind of cool if they had a stat thing where you could build your own Jedi as well. Maybe that would only be usable for like home games and not tournament legal or something like that. But that would be fun. Can you talk to Luxury Playstyle about getting some premium tokens for Armada? Yes, I have, and things take time, but I think that's I have definitely put it on their radar. So I had to actually run a poll, and I know some people were asking me like how much are they paying you that you're really pushing this product. They didn't ask me to run a poll. I just really wanted to talk about I love the tokens. As a matter of fact, I've actually been using them in some of my Legion games, some of their tokens, because like this the charge tokens are yellow and they have the lightning bolt. They work really well in Legion, so I've been using those for suppression. Also helps make sure I don't get my tokens mixed up with whoever else I'm playing, so I like it for that. And the damage tokens from Keyforge are great for damage tokens for Legion. They're actually pretty standard looking damage tokens, very recognizable. They're double-sided, 1 and 3 on the other side. And because they're heavy enough, there's no problem with them being double-sided. So you can use a lot of their tokens in different games as well. But yes, I've talked to them about some ideas for Armada tokens, and I think that's a possibility. I don't know what the timeline for something like that is going to be, how long it might take to come out, but I think that they've seen like some of the poll results. So I think, you know, you guys keep, speaking vocally about it, and that's, you know, that's it's getting, your feedback is going through. So that is cool. But like any business or whatever, there's long-term plans, and they can't just like stop everything they're doing and start developing something new like day one. So there's a process, and so there's a timeline for things like that. So if that is going to happen, and I can't confirm any of that, I don't know exactly what all the plans are, but because there's other things, you know, that they work on as well. But yeah, I'm super keen to get some premium Armada tokens. Absolutely. I'm also, in case any of you guys are you know, I know I'm talking about, and they sponsor the channel, and so I'm very thankful to them. But in case you guys didn't know, like Luxury Playstyle has changed their website a little bit, so now you can like you can do custom amounts of tokens. So if you don't like that whole like the package or whatever, because it can be a little expensive, they're certainly not for everybody. But yeah, if you're looking for like more specific amounts, they have a thing where you can add individual tokens to your order, so you can kind of customize an order a little bit. But don't forget, use Crabbok VIP as your token, or as your promo code. You save 15%, which is a good amount. All right. Let's see. You are very new to Armada. What is going on with reprints? Okay, so certain things are out of print for Armada. They just take a long time to get reprinted. It always happens. But everything that's out of stock will eventually come back in stock. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Thoughts on the Republic Y-Wing? So I've been flying the Y-Wing a pretty good amount lately. I think it's a versatile ship. I love the way it can be configured. I like it, especially with Anakin. I like having the Force on a Y-Wing as well. But boy, it's not very maneuverable. So I think there's definitely some ways to make it work a little bit better. I am working on tweaking my builds to really come up with a very, very good... I've got this double Y-Wing build that has not done very well, and I think it's close to being a good build. But it's somebody, one of you guys, maybe not one of you guys specifically, but somebody is like, every time I post a video with this build, they're like, "That's a crap build," and I post it again, they're like, "Yeah, it's still a terrible build," and I'm like, dude, that's not helping. I know, man, I know it's not that great, you know. But like I said, I'm wading back into the X-Wing waters, because while I've been reporting on X-Wing and covering X-Wing for a long time, I hadn't been playing as much X-Wing. And it's a lot of fun playing it again. Could you explain what are raid tokens in Armada? Yeah, I will try to do that. All right. So raid tokens, basically, yeah, you're gonna get a raid. I think some people in the chat have already answered it, but because I'm kind of getting caught up, I'm behind a little bit. But yeah, they basically stop you from being able to do a command, but at the start of your activation, you can, or the exact wording I gotta get down, but basically, you can either get rid of you can spend a token to get rid of the matching raid token, or you can discard a dial to get rid of all raid tokens. And that's the thing that has made raid tokens largely useless, because like it doesn't matter how many raid tokens you give me, I can just, you know, spend a dial and get rid of all of them. And then if you've got somebody like Thrawn or something like that, then you can just spend, you know, I'll spend my dial, purge all the raid tokens, and then do the Thrawn command. So like raid has historically not been all that great. However, with like Rex, who's out there, he can limits that. So Rex can be like, oh well, if you're spending a dial, you can only get rid of one token now. So now all of a sudden, raid can potentially kind of shut down ships' abilities to really be able to do actions. Or commands, rather. That's pretty cool, and it kind of might lead the game into a slightly new meta of maybe having some ships that are built to not depend on needing to do an action. So like I think the Imperial commander Jar Jar is like gonna quickly become like one of the best ever commanders. Like he was already pretty good, but I think with recent releases, with the Super Star Destroyer and now with Rebellion in the Rim coming out, I think he's going to be even more highly coveted because he's just so very, very good. Are you more excited for the clones or the droids? Well, the droids, as far as their physical presence on the battlefield, because you can get so many more of them, and the AAT tank is going to look very cool. But the faction, it would be the Republic. I'm more excited for the Jedi that are going to come with the Republic, and that's going to be in the same faction as the clones. Like, I would rather play more of a Jedi-centric army than a clone-centric army. Although I do like the mechanics that the clones are going to have. I'm starting to really like fire support. I have not liked fire support when it was first announced. I didn't like it at all, but playing with it more, I'm starting to see some of the power that it can give. And I'm beginning to like fire support a lot. And so I think the clones, all being able to do that, is going to be really, really cool. Do you think you will be talking up Marvel Crisis Protocol in a big way? It's going to depend on how much fun it is to play. I do plan on covering Marvel Crisis Protocol, and it depends on a great many things. But yeah, like ultimately, like I've reached out to Atomic Mass Games, and I'm hoping to get a review copy, or just an early copy, so that I can start creating content on it, like an unboxing, maybe assembling some of the minis, maybe doing some painting, and get some battlefields going and things like that. And try to get some battle reports and learn to play it pretty early and be able to bring it to you guys. And if it works out well, I could see, especially if it's enjoyable and easy to cover, I could see it incorporating it into like the types of games that I cover, because it just seems like it's perfect, because I like Marvel also. May have to get some more Marvel t-shirts. But otherwise, no, yeah, I'm looking forward to covering it. If it's not that much fun, or if there's not that much interest, if it kind of fizzles out, then we'll see. But for Marvel, I don't expect that to happen. Favorite Jedi and Sith? Jedi, Mace Windu right now, or Qui-Gon. Probably Qui-Gon as far as the character, but Mace Windu as far as the one I want to see on the battlefield, and Darth Maul for Sith. Although Revan would be really cool too if they ever do old stuff. I'm starting to get into Legion, and I don't. Will Gates asked, I'm starting to get into Legion, and I don't know who would be better to choose, the Republic or the CIS. Who would you pick? Well, considering that you'll have to get a core set which will have both. It kind of, one of the things you need to keep in mind is, do you have a partner that you can, or a buddy who's also playing that you can like buy 2 core sets maybe, and then split each of them so you can have like 2 core sets worth of stuff. So like that's going to be one thing that influences your decision. But right now they seem like they're moderately balanced. I think at least for the launch wave stuff, the clones or the Republic will be easier to assemble because they dry fit pretty well. Whereas if you're more of a 40k player, you might like the droids a little bit better because those are on sprues and they're going to take longer to assemble. They're going to be a little bit more difficult to put together for a beginner. So that's one thing to consider. As far as the way they actually play, they both have new mechanics. So if you really want a simpler game, stick to Rebels or Empire. If you're looking, but if you don't mind, the extra new mechanics that clones and their abilities have, and what droids and their abilities have, it's not like it's super complicated. It's just like maybe 1 or 2 extra rules that you have to remember for clones or droids, respectively. It really kind of depends on, how much time you have to paint. There'll be more minis for the droids up front, but then the super battle droids have less minis. So. But I think that's what it boils down to. What does Crabbok mean? I have no idea what Crabbok means. What is your favorite fish? Well, you're always asking me that. I like mahi. I don't know if that counts as a fish. Were you a fan of The Last Jedi? Or do you think it ruined the Star Wars saga? I'm a fan of The Last Jedi. Although the first time I saw it, I was a little confused. But watching it multiple times, I've come to appreciate that while the movie has flaws, and there are some things I do not like about the movie, what it does very well is it does very well. And I appreciate those high points, because it has a lot of really good things in it. Hello, and how are you doing tonight? I'm doing pretty well. Not too bad. I'm ready to face next week. Hope you guys are ready to face next week, too. Next week, it's going to be a great week. You might not know it yet, but it's going to be a fantastic week. It definitely is. All right. Beatrice asks me, do you think X-Wing 1.0 will get an update? Absolutely not. X-Wing 1.0 is DED dead. Absolutely dead. They're not doing anything else for X-Wing 1.0. Zero support. It's all about 2.0 at this point. Any chance we'll see Armada or X-Wing ships from the Mandalorian series? Oh, that's a great question. That's a very, very good question. Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think it's quite possible indeed. I mean, we're going to have to see, because the only thing that we really have seen so far is, is like a few smaller fighters. We haven't seen like any capital ships, right? So the Mandalorian taking place, a couple of years after Return of the Jedi, opens up an opportunity for them to show old Imperial ships from the Galactic Civil War. Maybe some new ones that were manufactured late in the Galactic Civil War. They can bring new ships into it, or they can go back to Legends and pull some of those old. Like one of the ships that was in one of the last books, I think was in the Thrawn, the third Thrawn book, was the Lancer frigate. It was a frigate, and they were also later referred to it as a Lancer. So whether it's some other frigate and the title was Lancer or whatever, was a little ambiguous about that. But so like there's stuff that's canon that just hasn't been shown on screen yet. So like the Mandalorian would be a great opportunity to show some of that other stuff. So that's something that you could do. Do you think that Rey could be a Force-made vessel for Palpatine? I think there is something in the idea that maybe Palpatine used the same kind of midichlorian manipulation to create Rey. I think there's a whole lot of here's something that's kind of cool. If it turns out that Rey is a clone, and that there were many clones of Rey, like multiples, it will go back to episode 8 and make that whole scene in the cave where she looks at the mirrors and sees and she claps and there's all the other Reys. That was one of the scenes I didn't like about episode 8 because I felt it didn't go anywhere. But if it comes back that she's actually a clone, then I'll go back to that scene and say, oh, I see what they were kind of laying, they were like subliminally kind of like it was well laid plans at that point. But we'll have to see. I'm not getting my hopes up for anything. I'm really trying to go into episode 9 with no expectations, because a big part of me is expecting episode 9 to leave me feeling sad when I walk out of the theater. And I know that that's not the idea that they really are going for. I think they're more or less going for it to have some kind of triumphant feel. But I think it's going to be like it's over, and that's going to be kind of sad for me, personally. But I think Rey could be a clone or, manipulated with the Force through Palpatine. Something like that would be kind of cool. Have you ever played Star Wars Rebellion, the board game? Yes. I don't think I've played the PC game of Rebellion. But yeah, I play the Rebellion is a staple. I try to play that like every couple months. Great game. Do you ever wonder if there could be more titles for Pelta frigates? Well, yeah, I think I would like to see, once we have new factions, I would love to see titles come out that aren't really restrictive, that aren't, what's the word I'm looking for, that can be used across multiple factions. I would love to see that, because currently, the titles have the symbol. Like if you look at Phoenix Home, it's got the little rebellion symbol, so which means it can't be used with, blah, 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 with if the Republic gets a Pelta. But I would love to see titles that can be used across faction, because once we have Old Republic, we're going to have some carryover. And I would love to see that. I think that would be really cool if they And I'm fine with there being Republic-specific Pelta titles. But I would also like, kind of like how this, like the 7th Fleet Star Destroyer is like one of those titles that you can put on multiple ships, right? Even though it is Imperial specific, it is, and that makes sense because the Republic wouldn't have had the same 7th Fleet that's organized under the Empire. But I would love to see for them to introduce some more titles that are not bound by a specific faction. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Ben is asking, well, we see you run an Executor 2 build bat rep for Armada. Maybe. I think that's. I don't know. I can't speak to when, but I think I will probably do that at some point. Honestly, the only reason I haven't yet is because when I sit down, even at 800 points, I sit down and I'm like, well, if I'm going to dump that many points, first off, an Executor 2 is obscenely expensive. And then with all the upgrades you're paying for those upgrades. You gotta fill it up. So you're looking at like 400, 500 points on one ship. And I realized I had built, at one point, like an 800 point list that had like 3 activations in it. Like I really loaded up the ships. And I'm like, I could build a 400 point list that could beat this 800 point list. And so I was just like, I don't like this. And so I really don't like the Executor 2, but I haven't actually run it yet. So like maybe that says something. Maybe the 33 hull and just the fact that it maybe can't possibly die might help. I don't know. Again, you're still only 6 turns, so maybe that's just an unkillable ship at that point. We'll see. I just don't really know. But it's something that I probably most certainly will do. Just don't know exactly when. And I think it will be easier to do that once we have Wave 8 out. Because like if the Rebels have a Starhawk available, well now we can like maybe the Rebels run 2 Starhawks, against an Executor 2, and now that's kind of even because they're both like, I have a feeling the Starhawk's going to be an obscenely expensive ship based on what we've seen already. And so if it ends up being, kind of like Super Star Destroyer pricing, or at least in the ballpark, at least like more expensive than a regular ISD, then I have a feeling it'll be, useful as a kind of a counter to the bigger SSDs. For introducing new players to Armada, do you recommend starting with all waves to date or only waves 1 and 2? I would recommend following my what to buy first list, because the only expansion it was as of like 3 days ago, my what to buy first list was still completely comprehensive as of everything that had been released. Well, I guess with the exception of the Super Star Destroyer, but that's obscenely expensive, so that would be at the very end of the list. So still follow the what to buy first list. I'll do another one early next year, and that will add the Super Star Destroyer, Rebellion in the Rim, and Wave 8. But yeah, those are going to be fun ships. Thrawn would be nice on an epic ship for X-Wing. Oh, absolutely. He'd make a great crew for that. That's for sure. I'm really hoping they do more huge ships for X-Wing as well. I think that would be great, especially since the whole thing was we got no Republic titles for a CR90, yet it can be used in the Republic, but we get 5 titles for the Rebels. Like, come on, you could have done at least 1 or 2 Republic titles. That makes me really think it's a really strong hint that they're working on a Republic specific huge ships, and if they're doing Republic specific, that means they're doing more huge ships, and that's kind of cool. Let's see. When do you think we'll get the droid Tri-Fighter? Well, I think that's definitely coming. I feel like that, and maybe I think the Tri-Fighter might be coming at the same time we get the ETA 2. I feel like those are going to be kind of in the same ballpark. Or maybe the V-Wing. It might launch with the V-Wing. I think there's still quite a few fighters that haven't come out yet, and I think they're trying to take their time because like there is only so many fighters you can do for Clone Wars. I think I think it's all mostly been flushed out at this point. So if you did them all like within like the first couple of waves, then you would get stale, and you're like, well, I guess we got nothing else. I guess X-Wing's done. New game. I don't think they want to do that. I think they want to take their time, and that's why not every wave. And that's a good thing about having so many factions, because now a wave can come out that doesn't have anything for your faction, but still breathes new life into the game. And at a certain point, a lot of these games need to kind of slow down a little bit. But yeah. Sniper nerf was dumb, makes them nearly worthless. Oh, I don't know. I used some snipers in my game today. And they were impacted by the nerf, but I think one of the things, I was talking with Sean about this, and we were like, well, it just changes the way you have to play them now. They're still a cheap activation. They still have a pretty good range. Like, if you put them in the middle of the board, they're everywhere. But also, the fact that the snipers were nerfed also means your snipers have better counter sniper defense. So your snipers aren't going to get counter sniped, by the other, by somebody else in the other corner of the map. It means you have to place them a little more carefully. I like the range 5 restriction, I really do. But yeah, I mean, they went up in points too, and so I get that. There was a couple things, but it also means that other snipers can't shoot your snipers, so they'd have to go into range 5. So it means you have to place them a little bit more deliberately, more carefully, and I think it's a good change. They can still they can play more defensively and cover objectives from a very wide area. There's a lot of things they can still do, and I think they were seen too much as the go-to unit. I think they're still good, though. What do you think about hypothetically dividing the Armada core set into 2 faction-specific sets with the same upgrade cards? I think they need to get rid of core sets completely and just have have a core set but also have an essentials kit. I would rather them just have the upgrade cards and let you buy the ships a la carte. Like, have the dice, damage deck, movement tool, range ruler, obstacles, rules, basic upgrade cards, all of that stuff. Or maybe you don't even need the upgrade card. Well, some of them you're going to need. But they should just do a card pack separate for that. Have the essentials kit, and then you buy whatever ships you want. You think we'll see an Edda 2? And I think I already answered that. The Edda 2 is, I think that's definitely coming. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes. It's a unique type of sandwich, but I'm considering it a sandwich, because think about it this way. If you took the hot dog bun, why am I talking about hot dog? If you took the hot dog bun and then ripped it open so it was 2 different pieces and did that, it's still a hot dog, right? Yeah. All right. Let's see. Heard about an FAQ for Armada? Anyone else heard about it? I haven't heard. There hasn't been an FAQ for Armada in a while. I have not heard anything about that. Let's see. Before I get too much further, also, have you guys heard about Force Friday? So, there was a lot of cool stuff announced. Honestly, they did this whole Force Friday preview thing, and it was all of the merchandise for Fallen Order, for Episode 9, and for The Mandalorian. And so there was Black Series figures. I used to cover Black Series. I think I'm done with Black Series. I'm running out of room for stuff, and I'm thinking of actually selling all of my Black Series figures. I've got a ton of them, and I might be doing that. I don't know. That's going to be hard because there's so many. I'd create individual lists because nobody wants to just buy a whole collection. Everybody wants to buy the one that they, so I don't know if that's really going to be worth it. Maybe I'll just donate them to some kid or something like that around Christmas time. That's a cool idea. That's a really cool idea. That would be a nice thing to do. Find a kid who really likes Star Wars. Here is a giant tub full of Star Wars, the Black Series. That could make some kids' day. What? That's a nice idea. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. All right. But yeah, so I got too much Black Series, so I'm not buying any of that anymore. But yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff. One of the cool things is I think her name is Cara Dune, the female, and I forget the actress's name. Goodness, she's huge, and I can't remember her name. She's kind of a big deal. It's just I'm having a brain fart at the moment. But yeah, she's got a rebellion tattoo on her face, which is kind of cool. So she's I guess a former rebel freedom fighter. So that's kind of cool. Ty Brute. Somebody mentions the Ty Brute in chat. Yeah, I think the Ty Brute is definitely coming to X-Wing. Andrew Navarro kind of hinted that there was one more ship coming for the Empire, and everybody probably knew what it was. So which I think that means it's the Ty Brute, and that's what my guess is. Let's see here. Can you do a Battle of Endor report for Armada? If you can get a game that big. Yes, that's a great idea. I would love to do that. I'll try and work on that. Shout out to your Legion videos. They're really helpful. Well, thank you. I'm really enjoying Legion. Do you think the new proximity mines from a Rebellion in the Rim will have an effect on the Armada meta? Well, I don't really know if there is that much of an Armada meta. I feel like there's so many viable options in Armada that I think every local meta is a little different. But I don't really see them as being that big of a thing. I think they're going to be kind of like a gimmick that some people will use, but the fact that you can kill them, I don't think they'll be that used quite that much. But we'll see. My lack of vision might be my undoing here. I don't think there was somebody asked about the price raise for the B2 and Phase 2 clones. I'm not so sure that was a price range. I think it was just originally misquoted as the wrong price. I believe that was the case. I might be wrong about that, but yeah. One of the things, I was on the 5th Trooper recently, and one of the things we talked about was FFG's been a lot more forthcoming with information, but in some cases they've been a little too eager to get the information out, and in some of those cases, some of that information has come out premature and incorrect, and I think that was one of those cases. Do you think we might see the First Order and Resistance for Legion in 2020? Absolutely not. 2020, I think, is much too soon. 2021, maybe. I would think, though, I would say 2022 is when I think we can probably expect to see those. And that's only if, in the wake of Episode 9 and Resistance's conclusion, that those sequel trilogies are seen in a positive light and continue to spawn additional content like more books or another series or something like that. Because, and I think it's possible, but if 9 has the exact same kind of fan backlash that 8 had, which I don't think it will, but if it does, then Disney might just decide to go in a different direction for a while. They may forget about the sequel trilogy and focus on different eras. They may focus on The Mandalorian. I think what the things that they're doing is they're hedging their bets right now. Like with this whole Triple Force Friday. They've got Fallen Order, which is a different time period in between the prequels and the original trilogy. Then they've got Mandalorian, which is after the original trilogy, but in between. So they're doing 2 in-betweens for the other trilogies. And then they've got the sequel trilogy. So whichever one fails, they've got 2 other ones to go off into a different direction. And so, if Fallen Order ends up being a runaway success, well, then they can be like, oh, all right, well, let's do maybe another show off of some characters that are in there, because there's already a comic book based off one of the characters in there and stuff. So they're really, what I think they're doing is I think they're fishing, and they've got this master fisherman casting 5 different poles. They've also got the Thrawn trilogy. You got Rebels. Rebels is still alive and well, right? Rebels is doing fine. The show's over, but there's future for almost all those characters. There's more stories to tell there that they can always revert back to that. So there's a lot of different things they can do right now. So it really depends on the success of Episode 9 and the sequel trilogy and Star Wars Resistance. They may just take a break, and Disney might push people hey, don't do sequel for a little while. We're gonna give that 3 or 4 years to kind of stew, and then we'll come back and be like, oh, here's another story about, what happened with Finn afterwards and how he eventually, studies to be a Jedi or something like that. I don't know. I really want Finn to pick the lightsaber back up and keep doing that. He had 2 lightsaber fight scenes in episode 7, and then we're treating him like he's never going to pick up a lightsaber again. If I had 2 lightsaber fight scenes, I would be picking the lightsaber back up. Although I didn't get my spine sliced in half, so maybe there's a good reason why he doesn't do it. I don't know. But yes, I mean, oh gosh. All right, I'm going to take just a few more, and then I'm going to start packing it in. Let's see. Do we think we'll see more huge ships for X-Wing? Absolutely. I think the fact that we didn't get any Republic titles is... And I think the Consular class is exactly... I think that's a perfect example. I think that's the one I would choose for the Republic. It's recognizable. Or a Pelta is possible too. Pelta would be a little bit larger, though. It might be a little bit too large. Maybe. Separatists have a couple of options too, but yeah, I think we'll see a Consular class. Geonosian Queens would be a cool miniature. They mentioned Alex and Luke were talking about sub-factions a long time ago. They were talking about Gungans and Geonosians would be cool sub-factions to do for Legion, so that's something that may actually happen. Any ideas on when Wave 7 for X-Wing will be announced? I think that's going to be a while because we still have Wave... what are we on? Wave 5? Gosh, I don't even know what wave we're on. What wave is coming out next? I'm a mess with X-Wing. Basically, we've got one wave out there, and then we got the huge ships. And so, I feel like I think they want the huge and epic to kind of come out and be its own thing, and then they'll announce it. They're slowing down a little bit with X-Wing, which is fine. It's a good thing. What is your Super Star Destroyer built? I don't know. If you're looking for a build, a specific way I like to build Super Star Destroyers, I have a lot of videos for that. But I'm not going to do a build right now. I have other videos for that. So just search for Crabbok SSD build or fleet or list, and you'll find some. You think we'll see the Krennic's shuttle? No. We've got enough shuttles. I don't think we'll see Krennic's shuttle. I mean, not anytime soon. Maybe like if X-Wing keeps going for like 10 more years, then maybe. What cross-faction purposes for upgrades do you recommend? I think I talked about that. I would suggest, I don't have all of... I'm not prepared to like... I'll give you one for cross-faction. If you play Empire... the Liberty has some good cards, and the MC30 have some good cards that you might want to consider for cross-faction purchases. But yeah, like look up some of the upgrades, Google them, and there's like Wikipedia pages that will actually tell you like what expansion comes with exactly which upgrades. Or you can watch my unboxings. I think I have just about everything in unboxing for it, and you can see some of the stuff that comes in those. But yeah. All right, guys. Our last one is: do you think we'll ever see the KOTOR universe come to Armada, X-Wing, or Legion? I don't know if it'll be KOTOR specifically, but it's definitely a possibility. One of the big rumors is that some of the movies that are, one of the trilogies that's being made right now, especially the Dan and Dave, Benioff and Weiss guys are working on like an Old Republic trilogy, and it's unclear like where in the Old Republic, like during that time frame for either Knights of the Old Republic or it's getting late, I'm tired, sorry. Or Star Wars: The Old Republic, like in the time of Revan, maybe, or maybe way before that, or maybe after that, and like I've heard even like only like a couple hundred years before the prequels, maybe while Yoda was still alive, like young Yoda. Like I really don't want to see young Yoda though. I don't at all, unless it's like a standalone, a one-off. But I don't want young Yoda to be like an ancillary character in another movie just to sell you on it, because any scene that Yoda's in, I know he's safe. If Yoda's ever in a battle, I know he's going to be safe, right? So things like that. I don't want them to borrow, like just do something all new, 100% new, And if it's like Game of Thrones style but with lightsabers, it's gonna be a hit. I promise you it will. I'm excited about the whole possibility of that. All right, guys. Well, I think that is gonna do it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching today, and thanks for hanging out with me and chatting. And yeah, we'll do this again. I haven't done one in a while, so I've been pretty busy. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's been fun. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out. I will talk to you later. See ya.